Hello everyone, I am Bharat Masati and I am here to present our paper on model-based reinforcement learning in cerebellum. My co-authors and I form an interdisciplinary group consisting of roboticists, neuroscientists, and computer scientists from the University of Texas at Austin. The motivations behind this study are to review and re-evaluate the functionality of cerebellum from a reinforcement learning perspective and to propose experiments that uses cerebellum simulations and ideas in reinforcement learning to know more about cognitive and motor learning in humans. Let us start with a brief overview about the cerebellum. The cerebellum is one of the most important structures of the brain located near the brainstem. It occupies only 10% of the brain's volume but consists of more neurons than the rest of the brain put together. It is known to play a vital role in execution of voluntary movements, motor coordination, and motor control. It is partitioned into several functional subdivisions called microzones, which modulate the activity in specific muscle groups. The idea of microzone will be more clear later in this presentation. Let us also cover a brief overview of reinforcement learning. Reinforcement learning is a paradigm which consists of an agent learning to take sequential decisions to perform a task in an environment to maximize its rewards. A task is usually modeled as a Markov decision process, which is composed of a state space, an action space, a transition function, a reward function, and a discount factor. Reinforcement learning algorithms can be broadly classified into two groups: model based methods, where the agent uses the model of an environment to optimize its policy, and model free methods, where the agent does not assume such access. Now that we have a basic overview of cerebellum and reinforcement learning, let us get to the main theme of this paper. We look at some of the functionalities of the cerebellum and correlate them with the processes in reinforcement learning. The functionalities that we are going to focus on are cerebellum's ability to deliver motor commands and control movement, which is equivalent to modulation of a control policy, its ability to predict future sensory states, which is equivalent to learning the forward dynamics model of an environment, and its ability to encode external rewards, which is equivalent to learning reward functions of an environment. Finally, by putting together these three equivalencies, we hypothesize that model-based reinforcement learning could be one of the functionalities of the cerebellum. Our objective in this paper is to present literature that supports this hypothesis and propose a way to test this hypothesis using a simulated cerebellum. Let us start by understanding the topology of the cerebellum at a high level. It comprises of network of cells with known sites and rules for plasticity, convergence-divergence ratios, and geometry of projections between the connecting layers. The connectivity is broadly as shown in the figure. The mossy fibers serve as a bridge for information flow into the cerebellum, and it carries information about the state of the world. In addition to the input signals, teaching or error signals originate from the inferior olive and they are transmitted via the climbing fibers. These climbing fiber signals modulate the output behavior of the cerebellum by influencing the synaptic plasticity across different layers. For a given input state, a climbing fiber spike induces an increase in the response of the nucleus cells for that particular input. For a simpler understanding, it can be thought of as a neural network receiving a state vector as its input at each time step and a scalar update signal corresponding to each individual action produced by the nucleus cells. Although it is better described as a recurrent neural network because of the directed cycles between the intermediate layers. Now that we have seen the topology of the cerebellum and its input-output pathways, let's talk about its functionality. One of the widely accepted phenomenon about cerebellum is that it modulates motor commands in voluntary movements, and it is believed to be achieved by using an encoding of forward models of the environment, popularly known as internal models of the cerebellum. These forward models predict the future sensory state based on the current state and current motor commands. The difference between the predicted sensory state and the actual future sensory state is known as a sensory prediction error, and this error is responsible for learning the forward models in the cerebellum. The inverse model or the motor system query the predicted sensory state to modulate the motor commands. These inverse models can be thought of as a proxy for the control policy, and the forward models can be thought of as a proxy for forward dynamics models of the environment in the reinforcement learning setting. The discussion so far covers the first two connections about the control policy and the forward dynamics. Now, let's move on to discussing the reward function. Some of the recent studies that try to understand cerebellum's role in addiction and social behavior uncovered a previously unappreciated functionality. Experiments on mice have revealed that cerebellum has direct excitatory projections onto the ventral tegmental area, or VTA. VTA is also known as brain's reward center because it has dopaminergic projections to several regions in the brain. To understand this more clearly, let's look at one of their simpler examples. In the setup shown in the figure, the mouse is free to move around a square chamber, and one of the regions of the chamber is selected as a rewarding region. Whenever the subject enters the rewarding region, the pathway connecting the cerebellum and VTA is externally activated. As a result, the subject eventually learns to spend more time in the rewarding regions, which tells us that the cerebellum circuitry is capable of communicating information about the external rewards to other brain regions. The summary of these experiments is that cerebellum can not only play a role in predicting future sensory state, but it is also capable of encoding reward functions of the environment. This brings us back to the main hypothesis of this study. Combining the general consensus about cerebellum's role in movement with the recent findings about its role in reward learning, arrive at a hypothesis that model-based reinforcement learning can be one of the functionalities of the cerebellum. The next step is to think about how to test such a hypothesis about a biological neural network. We propose to use a simulated cerebellum for this purpose. In order to better understand our approach, let us look at some of the related work done using cerebellum simulation. Since the topology and connectivity of the cerebellum is well established, it naturally becomes a good candidate for building a simulation. Cerebellum simulation have been previously used for many artificial applications, like using an adaptive cerebellar spiking model to control a robotic arm, and using a cerebellum-inspired neural network for dynamic state estimation and model predictive control. The cerebellum simulation that we are going to focus on in this study is a biologically constrained representation with connectivity ratios close to a real cerebellum. It was previously used for performing tasks like cart pole balancing, PID control, robot balancing, classification, and pattern recognition. Let us try to understand how to use the cerebellum simulation with an example. The figure shows the interface between the cerebellum simulation and the cart pole environment. The state signal is encoded into the mossy fibers, which map onto the granular cell layer. The mossy granular layer connections then map onto all the microzones defined in the simulation, which generate distinct outputs. Every microzone is associated with its own pathway to receive an error signal, and all the microzones share a common input. The output of the cerebellum is inferred from the firing rates of the nucleus neurons, which can take only positive values. So, to evaluate a general output, which can take both positive and negative values, which in this case is the net force, we define two microzones for left and right forces and compute the net action as the difference between the firing rates of these two microzones. One of the microzones will be responsible for increasing the net output and the other will decrease the net output. This summarizes how the input-output mechanism is handled in the cerebellum simulation. Next, we will see how the simulation can be used to evaluate our hypothesis. In order to evaluate our hypothesis, the goal is to somehow test if the cerebellum simulation can act as a reinforcement learning agent. We propose a two-step method for this purpose. In step 1, the simulation learns a forward dynamics model under the reward function of the environment. Then, in step 2, we perform an n-step look ahead to test if the simulation can spontaneously optimize a policy by receiving recursive feed-forward predictions from the learned model in step 1. Let us understand each step in a bit more detail. This figure shows an example for implementing step 1 on the simulated cerebellum for the cart pole balancing task. The task consists of 4 state variables and 1 variable representing its action. At every time step, the state action pairs are provided as inputs to the simulation. As mentioned earlier, the simulation's output are inferred from the firing rates of the model nucleus neurons, which can only take positive values. So we use 2 microzones to represent the positive and negative ranges of every output that the simulation needs to learn. For example, consider the pendulum angle theta. Theta plus microzone is predicting the positive half of the pendulum angle, and theta minus is the negative half. The net output is then inferred as a difference between the firing rates of these two microzones. Following this representation, for the cart-pole task, we need 8 microzones to predict each of the 4 state variables and 2 microzones to learn the reward function of the environment. For a given state action pair, whenever the predicted feature is different from the actual feature in the next time step, we send an error signal. If the predicted value is greater than the actual value, this error signal is sent to the negative microzone, which will decrease the overall output. And if the predicted feature value is smaller than the actual value, we send the error to the positive microzone to increase the overall output. This way, we train the simulation to learn the forward dynamics and reward function of the environment. This approach is similar to training the simulation on a supervised learning task, and it does not require any special assumptions about the construction of the simulation. Now that we have understood how to train a cerebellum simulation to learn the forward dynamics and reward functions, the next step is to look at policy learning. The figure shows an overview of our proposed method for evaluating the policy learning. We separately define policy microzones, just like we did for the forward model, and provide the input-output pairs of the policy microzones as inputs to the model microzone to get the predicted next state and reward. And these values are then sent back to the policy microzones, and the process is repeated. An error is delivered to the policy microzones if the task terminates or fails after n steps. The entire process can be thought of as a finite n-step look ahead using the forward dynamics and the reward microzones. This way, we use no particular error function for artificially training the simulation to learn the task, but we are checking if the simulation naturally learns to optimize its policy by communicating with the model microzones. The success of this approach relies on how learning the forward model and reward function influences the policy microzones in the simulated cerebellum internally. Let us now look at the conditions that validates our hypothesis. In step 2, if the simulation is able to show improvements in its policy, it means that the simulation can perform model-based reinforcement learning, which supports our hypothesis. Otherwise, if the simulation does not show any improvement in the policy, it means that either our hypothesis is not true, or it cannot be tested within the scope of the simulated cerebellum, or it could be due to the limitations in the construction of the simulation. To summarize this talk, we first combine the popular consensus with the recent evidence to hypothesize that the cerebellum can perform model-based reinforcement learning. We then propose a two-stage method that could potentially evaluate this hypothesis to some extent. Some of the potential challenges involved in performing these kinds of experiments are the outcome depends a lot on the biological accuracy of the simulation and how individual hyperparameters are tuned within the simulation. Some of the positive outcomes that could stem from these kinds of studies are an algorithmic understanding of reinforcement learning in cerebellum and how it could be used to come up with new sample efficient methods in future. Thank you for listening to this talk. If you have any questions or comments about this paper, feel free to contact me at bmasetti@utexas.edu. Thank you.